Hello and welcome to Feeling on Purpose, an interview series that will grow your mind. I'm your host, Stephanie Kathan, and it's my intention with this series to share with you a practical path to a magical life by tuning you into the power of feeling on purpose. As I was putting this guest list together for this series, it was really important for me to choose people who've touched my life in some way. And today's guest has done that many times over through the years. She helped me shift my money mind with her book, Overcoming Under-Earning. She's helped me move from a place of poverty and lack to a mindset of sacred success with her course in Financial Miracles. Her teachings have brought me from despair into awareness. And it's an honor to welcome today bestselling author Barbara Stanny.
Hi, Stephanie. It's great to be here, and thanks for asking me.
Oh, thank you so much, Barbara. This interview series is all about feeling on purpose, and I feel like it's a topic that not enough people talk about, and it's such an important part of the way that we live our lives. And I've got some questions here for you, and the first one is, looking at your life now, you're a multiple-time best-selling author. You're touching lives of women all over as you help them learn that they are worthy and how to create wealth. You're living the life of your dreams. You're married to an extraordinary man. When you were younger, did you ever imagine that your life would look like it does right now?
Never. And it's, I had this line that I put in my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, How Women Get Smart About Money, that my editor took out because she thought it was corny. And I finally put it in my latest book, Sacred Success. But the line is, in our deepest pain lies our highest purpose. And for me, I had tremendous pain around money. I grew up really wealthy. My father's the R of H&R Block. But his only advice was about money was don't worry, which I thought was great. And really under that was the message that there will always be a man to take care of you, which I really like that too. And then I married a man who was a financial advisor. But what I found out early in our marriage is that he was a compulsive gambler, and he lost a fortune of my money. And I found out every year that he was losing money, and here's the insane part, I continued to let him manage it because I was so scared of and intimidated by anything to do with finances. And even after our divorce, after 15 years I put up with this, I still decided money's not my thing. I don't want to deal with money. Well, then I got tax bills for more than $1 million that I couldn't pay. I didn't have the money. My ex had left the country, and my father wouldn't lend it to me. And that was the moment. That was the moment that I knew I had to get smart. And once I decided that, once I decided that, I believe that when you make a commitment, like a down-to-your-toes commitment. Like I had 3 daughters. One was just a baby. I was not going to raise those girls on the street. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how I was going to get smart. But I swear the universe revolves to help you reach a committed goal. And I was a journalist for the San Francisco Business Times, and I was hired for a freelance project to interview women who were smart with money. And those interviews not only changed my life, and I became smart about money, but I started my whole career. I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, and suddenly I had this whole new career. And that...
How did you, if you don't mind me asking, how did you find the strength? Because that must have been so frightening to be in that situation where you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Terrifying,
and
because
your
I had
support system.
I had no support. None, zero. My parents and I weren't talking because I was so mad my father wouldn't lend me the money. I didn't know how. I mean, it was horrible. It's like how the ancient Chinese used to bind the women's feet and they couldn't walk. That's how I felt, like someone bound my money muscles and I couldn't move ahead. And I had 3 children. I had no choice. Well, I did have a choice, but my children were my motivation. But there was also something deeper. I think that I was given these parents, I was given this husband, this gambling husband, and I've thanked them all since. But I think this was part of my path, and I think I was driven to overcome it so I could help other women overcome their financial issues.
So how did you use, you must have been feeling on purpose to go from that one extreme of fear and despair to the life that you lead today of sacred success.
Well, it wasn't quite clean. It wasn't quite a clean line here.
Right,
you know?
Right. You didn't just step over a line and suddenly you're successful.
Right.
So can you share with us some of the ways that feeling on purpose may have impacted that journey for you?
Well, I didn't start out feeling on purpose. I started out feeling terrified and knowing I had to support my children. And if I didn't, I couldn't even go there. I couldn't even think. I mean, it's like I had no choice. So when I interviewed these women, I mean, I was going to classes and my eyes would glaze over, my brain would fog up. I mean, I couldn't understand money. And when I was interviewing these women, that's when the veil started lifting, and I realized that getting smart or smarter about money is a 3-pronged process. It's the outer work, which I had been focusing on, reading about money and investing and negotiation and, getting the right kind of jobs, all that thing. That's important. But when I kept getting stuck, my eyes kept glazing over. And when I started doing the inner work of wealth, when I started looking at my attitudes, beliefs, and decisions about myself and money, all the early messages I got, that's when I feel like I broke the code and things broke open, and the veil started lifting, and I started seeing things more clearly. And then what really got me going was when I realized the spiritual component of this whole thing, that I realized it's not just the outer work and the inner work, but what really motivated me was knowing that God put me on this planet for a purpose. And I started seeing that what was going on, was part of my purpose. I remember as a journalist, I was somewhere, and a friend said to me, boy, if I was a writer like you, I'd write a book on how to help women keep from getting ripped off by men. And it's like, whoa, that sounds great. But I realized I had to get smart first before I could even write that book. And so, then I started getting a clearer purpose, and that I was here to help others. I was here this was about more than me and my children.
And it sounds like you made a decision along the way to show up as that person with a purpose. And I'm so, so glad you did. Oh,
I am too.
You are such a gifted teacher. Your books, Overcoming Under-Earning, and now Sacred Success, A Course in Financial Miracles, you've created them in a way that it not only guides the reader through the mindset shifts, but also through the emotional shifts that you were just talking about, and that inner work, connecting to that spiritual part of you, and also that shift going from feeling powerless to feeling empowered. Is there a process that you do every day that helps you maintain that vibration of feeling empowered and helps you to not slip back into old habits or old patterns of thought?
Oh, I slip back all the time. I slip back all the time. The key is to notice when I do it and get out of it. Like just today, I started feeling terrible about myself. I just started feeling terrible about myself. And what I do when I started feeling these terrible things inside me, or these scared feelings, or the anxiety, is I close my eyes and I make it bigger, and I make it bigger, and I make it bigger, and I try to see what is really going on, what this feeling is trying to tell me, because it felt like that old feeling I had of not mattering, not being important, and I realized it was just triggered because someone who was in a class of mine needed to drop out because she was going through a divorce and couldn't handle it. And this happened yesterday. But for some reason, I had personalized that. And I didn't even know I did it. Like there was something wrong with me for doing it. And so I noticed that those old feelings, I made them bigger. I realized what was going on. There's this line in the Course that said, you see out there what you feel within. So I wanted to know why I was seeing this negative stuff because it was coming from within. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So I slip back all the time.
I love how you described that, because as you were talking about it, I was kind of envisioning doing that and kind of removing yourself and just becoming an observer and seeing the root of what the issue is. Oh, I love that. That is so powerful.
Well, I'll tell you the second part to that, which I had forgotten.
Yeah.
So I went inside and made it bigger, and I realized that was my child. That was me as 3 years old, feeling awful about myself because my parents had an anger problem. And I started comforting that child because I knew it wasn't me. I felt like my child had taken over. And I just started comforting her. It's okay. And it just, I don't know, it just really relieved. I felt relieved.
That is so powerful because we seek that so much from outside ourselves. It is so rare that we will soothe ourselves.
And you know what happened? What really got me looking is because I picked a fight with my husband, and I have the most wonderful husband who is just so easygoing, and I picked a stupid fight with him. And I thought, why am I doing that? There must be something going on. So the message I have here is when you slip back, that's not a problem because everybody does. But that you catch it and you know it's a slip back and it's not the truth of what's so.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's so powerful. If you were to give one piece of advice about living your dreams, what would that be?
Do what you fear, because that's how you grow. I know the only way to live your dream is to do what you fear. When my whole world fell apart and this money stuff, I didn't know where my money was. I didn't know what it was doing. I didn't know if I had any or not. And I had no one to talk to about it. I knew that's the fear I had to face. I knew it. I had to face the fear. I had to get smart about money. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, and it kind of revealed itself. But always, my children, to this day, they're in their 30s and 40s. To this day, they call me when they get stuck or frustrated or something, they have a problem, and they'll say, what do I do? And they know what I'm going to say. I always say, well, what are you most scared to do? And they'll tell me. I say, well, that's exactly what you need to do. And they'll go, okay.
So when somebody's looking at that fear, and I know what you're talking about because I've journeyed over that border a couple of times.
Oh, I'm sure you have, more than a couple of times. I'm sure you have.
And it's not an easy journey because sometimes that big, scary thing looks so big and scary.
So here's the thing.
But
yeah, go on.
It's not as big and scary, but it appears so big and scary. And I'm wondering if you have a tip to kind of size it down a little to make it not so intimidating.
Well, you can play all kinds of mind tricks, but the truth is, it's scary. It is scary. And not for any rational reason necessarily. But it's not hard. It's not hard to do what's scary. It's very easy. You just do it. But it's so uncomfortable, you just want to throw up.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I know the key to going to the next level in anything, that success in anything, whether it's making more money or losing more weight, always lies just outside your comfort zone. And what I learned from interviewing successful people is they always got to the place where they said, I can't do that. No, that's too scary. But they did it anyway. And even if they didn't succeed at first and they fell down, they kept on going. It's what I call the stretch. Because the stretch, going past what feels comfortable to what seems impossible, is always the way you grow. So now what I do, two things. When I do something scary, and I do something scary all the time. I mean, I really scare myself a lot. And first of all, because I've been willing to face my fear for so many years, I don't know, 20, 30 years now, that it's given me confidence, because that's how you grow confidence. Second, I reframe it and say, oh, good, this is the stepping stone to my next level. It doesn't feel good, but I know. And third, I get support. I call up a friend. I go to my husband. I call up my kids. I panic. I fall apart. And they fluff me up. And then I can go on.
It's so amazing, the things that we allow ourselves to be scared of. I remember an incident with you, actually. It was back in 2010. And I was doing energy work. I was just starting out, and I remember I had given you a session, and you said, where's your payment thing? Where do people pay you? And I didn't have one set up at the time, and I realize now it was because I was really afraid to accept my worth, to accept that anybody would pay me for what I was doing. And you gave me how. And I had an interview set up with you, and you're like, you do not have your shit together at all, and I'm not going to do the interview with you until you get it together. And it had already been scheduled, and I was like, oh, my God, this is not an option. And suddenly I had to really put my fear on the back burner because I wanted to interview you so bad, and that it took me 5 minutes to set up a PayPal button on my website. Took me 5 minutes to handle a fear that had really stifled me for so long and kept that portal of money closed for no good reason. And it really did take you giving me that loving nudge of, you are better than this and you are more worthy and you need to face this fear head on. That got me moving. And you were the first. It was amazing, and now I've been doing that for 5 years now with clients all over the world because of you. Wow. You. But
see, there was something in there that's really important, and it's what you're talking about. Suddenly, what you were fearful of, you had a purpose. Suddenly, you had a purpose, and that's what I noticed with really, really successful women. Once they have a purpose, their purpose becomes stronger than their fear.
Oh, that is so good.
And that's what happened. So you having that purpose of wanting to interview me, which I'm very flattered, but you having that purpose, suddenly that became bigger than your fear.
Wow.
That's why a purpose is so vital.
It really is, and it's just a matter of figuring out your why. You know, for a long time I kind of wandered around in life going, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Because I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. And I wasn't sure what my purpose was until I started asking the why do I want this?
Beautiful.
And
that's exactly.
I knew I wanted to learn from you.
That's exactly why I wrote Sacred Success. That's exactly why I wrote it. Because I thought it was going to be a book about women who were making millions. And what I saw when I started interviewing women who were making millions is not, what was so impressive was not the outrageous sums they were pulling in, but how they were doing it. They were doing it in a very different way than the male model. And that is, they were purpose-driven and not profit-driven. Yeah, they wanted to make money. That they definitely had that desire. They definitely had a profit motive. But more important was that they were purpose-driven. And what I've noticed with women is once we are financially stable, once we have food on the table, and a roof over our heads and some money in the bank, we're no longer motivated by money. We want to make it. It's nice. But what really motivates us is wanting to help others and to make a difference. And once you find out what it is that really turns you on, that why you're here, then all the obstacles become so negotiable, almost non-existent.
Wow, true indeed. I can't believe our time's almost up. I have one more question to ask you, and is there a practice or a tip or a personal growth tool that you use in your everyday life that you'd be willing to share with us?
Oh, yeah. I have quite a few. I think that every morning my husband and I read a lesson from A Course in Miracles, and I meditate. And sometimes, like this morning, it was like 2 minutes, but I did it. So just by reading something inspiring and spiritual and going inside, even if I don't have time, just for a few minutes, I don't know, gets me centered and connected, not only to myself, but to something greater than myself.
That's a very great way to start the day. I have a practice similar to that. And it's all a matter of, you're right, it doesn't matter how much time that you spend doing it. It's the practice itself. It's the setting of your vibration to start your day. Just going within, it's like it's your that reset button that kind of sets your day off on a good note.
Right.
And really important, and it doesn't take very long.
No. So there's two things I do. I go within, and when I need to, I go without. That means when I have some issues going on or something's going on, or I feel like I reach out for support. I call a girlfriend. I call my husband. I'll go to my assistant and say, I'm feeling terrible. And that really helps, too. Because I think we women
Barbara,
tend to isolate.
Thank you. We do, and we don't like to ask for help, I think, because we're the nurturers, we're the caretakers, and even though men are known as the providers, we've kind of accepted the label of taking care of all of the problems. We're the problem solvers. And we tend to put ourselves on the back burner and tend to everybody else's problems and not give ourselves the care that we need. So listeners, I highly recommend that you just take a few minutes every day and go within, like Barbara suggested. She's giving you a tool out of her own personal growth toolbox. So take note of it and use it wisely. And Barbara, thank you so much for being here and shining in your brilliance with me and sharing your wisdom and creating these ripples of awareness. It's been an honor to share this space with you.
I always love talking to you, Stephanie, always. And I'll take any chance I can get. Can we mention my website if anybody's interested?
Of course, yes.
So I'm very accessible, and I have a lot of things on my website. It's a very juicy website, barbarastanny.com, Stanny. And every
also,
Monday,
if you're listening,
can I just say that every
I just
Monday,
want to tell the
Monday,
listeners.
Yeah.
I just want to tell the listeners that there's a button on the replay page that says Learn More About Barbara, and if you click on that, that'll bring you right to her website as well.
Beautiful.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
And I also want to say that the first Monday of every month, we have this amazing free call with women all over the world, and we talk about money. People ask questions, other people answer. We've created a beautiful community of women talking openly and honestly about money, and we go deep.
Yes, you do. I'm a member of that group, and I can say from personal experience that Barbara Stanny is one of the most accessible teachers you can find. She does these calls. They're totally free. You can ask her anything you want in regard to money and finances and your mindset. And she taught me about a bridge job for the first time. She's taught me so many things. She's touched my life in so many ways, and you have access to her. So please go check her out. If you are in a space where you're feeling a little bit of despair, you don't know much about money, you'd like to create wealth, you're in a mindset that you know you'd like to shift, she is your girl. You definitely need to go check her out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Everybody, thanks for listening to another Feeling on Purpose interview. It's been an honor to share this space with you, my lovely listeners, as well as my beautiful guest, Barbara Stanny. I'm your host, and we'll see you on the next Feeling on Purpose interview series that grows your mind. Bye-bye, everybody.
The conference is now completed. Goodbye. Welcome to the conference. Please enter the conference ID followed by the pound key.